Welcome to the first episode of Quarantine TED Talks. Hello everyone, my name is Mahmoud Ali and today I will be speaking on the subject of vaccine hesitancy. The World Health Organization defines vaccine hesitancy as the delay in acceptance or refusal of vaccines despite the availability of vaccination services. The issue with this trend is that an increase in vaccine hesitancy can compromise our health system and thus allow the resurgence of preventable diseases. Now, before we begin to dissect the issue at hand, it is imperative we understand the meaning of immunization. Vaccination is the process of administering a vaccine which helps the immune system develop protection from a given disease. The vaccine consists of the virus or microorganism in a weakened, less toxic state. By administering the smaller doses, the person is able to help their body build antibodies while not compromising their immune system. As researchers have established, vaccination remains to be the reason why we have been able to keep many infectious diseases in check, a few being polio, tuberculosis, and tetanus, among many others. Considering the role that vaccination will play in our current pandemic and future health crises, I feel it's vital we get ahead of misinformation and educate people on the importance of vaccinating. Now, when looking for areas of misinformation to target first, I decided it would be best to first address the health concerns related to vaccination, as opposed to those who claim they are just a ploy for the government to control us. The problem with these arguments is that they contain little to no evidence nor science. Their reliance on speculation and vague theories innately relegate them to the category of conspiracy theories. And as the old saying goes, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And as I spoke about earlier, most vaccine hesitant individuals, parents, are not necessarily against vaccines or vaccine refusers, they are more so fearful of the adverse health implications. This distrust is due to many parents nowadays turning to the internet for advice on childcare. Much of this information can be found online on a plethora of forums such as familyeducation.com, parenthood.com, and kidshealth.org, just to name a few. Information and advice on these websites range from how to make breastfeeding easier, childcare, and techniques for getting babies to sleep. Among all this usual motherly advice, an alarming trend has begun to arise. Parents are suggesting that you don't actually need vaccines, that they can potentially be dangerous. As a parent, navigating through the sea of contradicting information can be challenging. At first glance, it is easy to write out these parents as delusional, ignorant, or selfish, but when analyzing the different arguments used by parents to justify their reluctance to vaccinate, I found they were reacting in ways that are emotional and fairly logical considering many of the pressures placed on today's parents. What it truly shows is that these parents' beliefs are symptoms of a larger issue at hand. From the time a mother is pregnant with her baby, we as a society place all sorts of pressures on the mother regarding all the requirements of being a good parent. Mothers are told that their children's success and failures all rest on their hard work. This form of individualism parenting can be seen by the way we blame mothers for anything that goes wrong with their children. Your child's sick? Well, then it must be a result of your doing. These societal pressures place unfair burdens on mothers, making them feel as if they must always do what is exactly perfect for their child. In reality, all it ends up doing is pitting parents against each other, creating a sense of competition and forcing mothers to try and navigate uncharted territories. As we all know, a mother's number one job is to keep her children healthy, but what if it comes at the expense of others? This is where individualism parenting can lead to issues. Just like parents who rely on home remedies to treat their children, these are similar reasons parents offer for why they reject vaccines. After all, they insist their children will be the ones devastated by infection. They are healthy, they eat well, they don't need vaccines either. An example of a potentially bad outcome as a result of this individualist parenting and vaccine hesitancy would be our school system. In the United States, before any child can start school districts require parents to show proof of vaccination. When one parent refuses to vaccinate, this can create a hole in the defense barrier, thus potentially leading to the death of a poorly vaccinated peer. As the CDC states, not all vaccines are created equal. Though vaccines play a vital role in keeping us all safe individually, they work best when everyone is using them. Next, to highlight a few strategies for talking to parents, I found there tends to be two ways to talk to parents, with one working much better than the other. The two strategies are presumptive versus participatory recommendations. Researchers at the American Academy of Pediatrics found that pediatricians who provided presumptive recommendations informing parents that shots were due rather than a participatory recommendation asking parents what they thought about shots were much more likely to see parents accept vaccines. Examples of participatory dialogue would be, do you want to vaccinate your child? What do you think about vaccines? Would you like to hear about the vaccines we offer for today's visit? While presentive would be, today your child is due for 2 vaccines. We will be giving them MMR and varicella. And another example would be, it's time for an annual influenza vaccine. Your child is old enough to receive either the inactivated shot or the live nasal spray. While the presumptive dialogue approach is very effective, there still may be some parents who are still reluctant to vaccinate. For those parents, I found a third very effective approach to open the dialogue and pinpoint their areas of concern. This approach was developed by Allison Singer of the Autism Science Foundation. This third approach is called CASE. It's an acronym for Corroborate, About Me, Science, Explain, and Advise. Corroborate means acknowledging the parent's concern and find some point on which you can agree. Set the tone for a respectful, successful talk. And next, about me. Describe what you have done to build your knowledge base and expertise. This part is where you build your ethos. You establish your authority to speak on the subject, building credibility, and thus earning their respect and their trust. The next part is science. Describe what the science says. This is the part where you can dig a little bit deeper into the data. You can show parents past studies and explain to them how vaccines for decades have been able to eradicate a number of diseases. In this part, you will be using the rhetorical technique of logos, logic. The fourth and final part of CASE is explain. Give your advice to the parent based on the science. This is the part where you can let the parent know that you are on their side and have nothing but the best interest for them and their family. In essence, you are using the rhetorical technique of pathos. Now that we know how these 4 steps are implemented, here's an example of them in action.
Your child will also be getting the flu vaccine today. Because this virus changes from year to year, she'll need a new shot every year to be fully protected. Before we get started, do you have any questions about the vaccinations?
Actually, Dr. Smith, I am very concerned about the shots that my child is scheduled to receive today. My sister's son Daniel was just diagnosed with autism. He went from being a healthy, happy child to barely communicating or engaging with his parents. I saw it myself. My sister believes his disease was caused by the MMR vaccine. She knows her child better than anyone, and if she thinks MMR is the cause, then I believe her. I don't want to let this happen to my baby. I don't want her to receive the scheduled vaccines today.
I'm really sorry to hear about your nephew's diagnosis. Some parents get very worried when they hear the word autism. And I realize that a lot of the symptoms are first noticeable around the same age as when the MMR vaccine is given. I want to make sure I have all the information and do the best for my patients. So I've been following a lot of news and research related to autism and its possible causes. At this point, there is a lot of research that shows that autism is most likely, at least in part, genetic. And on the other hand, there is no evidence that it's caused by vaccines. Vaccines are very safe. Some children will have a fever or mild redness afterwards, but they are the best way to protect your child from diseases that are very dangerous, even life-threatening.
I was skeptical about the connection at first, too, but I wanted to learn more about my sister's fear of the MMR vaccine. So I looked online, and guess what? She was right. I found all of this information about how MMR causes autism. If MMR didn't cause Daniel's autism, then why is there so much information on the internet that says so?
It's often hard to know what information is truthful. But I know I have a hard time navigating through all those sites. Unfortunately, the internet is full of misinformation on many different topics, and it can be very confusing as to which information you should regard as accurate. When I need information on a health topic, I go to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. These sites base their information on science and research, and I trust what they have to say. And that's by vaccinating your child on time.
Okay. It's reassuring to hear that you are confident about the safety of vaccines. I guess it would be okay for her to receive the scheduled vaccines today.
As we can see from this clip, ethos, logos, and pathos are very powerful forms of persuasion and can be even used for medical applications. Finally, in order to protect the public from harmful diseases, we must increase vaccination awareness and make sure that new parents understand the importance of vaccinating their children. Simple decisions such as these affect not only their children's life, but also the lives of those around them. The WHO recently declared to the public that vaccine hesitancy, as they referred to it, was one of the top 10 threats to global health. This classification places it right up there among climate change, air pollution, Ebola, and influenza. Thank you everyone for tuning in to my virtual TED Talk.